As you and your party ventures through the scorching desert, the blistering heat becomes almost unbearable. Mirage-like waves distort the landscape and the air shimmers with intense heat. Suddenly, you stumble upon an ancient-looking brass lamp, half buried in the sand. Sensing potential treasure, you brush off the sand and unwillingly release a billowing plume of smoke, revealing a towering figure wreathed in flames with its fiery eyes fixated on the party. The creature, adorned in resplendent armor and wielding a scimitar engulfed in flames, speaks with a voice that crackles like fire, saying, "You have released me from my prison. Speak your wish, mortals, and perhaps I shall grant it." This is when you realize that you have just released an Efreeti, and must be very careful with what you ask for, because carelessly asking for what you want will more than likely become twisted for their own amusement and purpose. Hello and welcome to Dungeon Deep Dive, where we talk about all things D&D monsters, from monsters and their lore to their publication history, where they originated and how you can use them in your D&D games. In today's video, we're going over the Christina Aguileras of the D&D world, the Efreetis. These creatures are a 12-foot tall looking humanoids that call the elemental plane of fire their home. They can be seen with both black or red skin that seem to be perpetually on fire and are severely well muscular. Some people, when looking upon an Efreet, will often mistake them for a devil from the Nine Hells because of the flames, the skin colour and the horns that adorn their head. These fiery towers of muscle could easily overcome and control fire elementals, so they actively try and avoid Efreets at all costs. Efreets made their first appearance in the original 1974 Dungeons & Dragons white box set. In this book, they are described to be similar to that of Dajin, but based in fire instead of air like a Dajin, but are still chaotic creatures. The next time we see the Efreet is in the 1977 Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual. It states that the Efreeti and the Dajin are sworn enemies and will always attack each other, no matter where they encounter one another. If you're lucky enough to force an Efreet to serve you, they will be a servant for 1,001 days, or until they fulfill the 3 wishes they can grant you. The wishes that they do grant, they don't grant them willingly, and the wishes they do grant will seek to pervert the intent of their master by adhering to the letter of the word that they wished for. For example, if you ask an Efreet to make someone feel loved, the Efreet will exploit loopholes into the wish wording. It will make them obsessively loved by everyone, leading to suffocation or even danger from overly obsessive admirers. In the Monster Manual, they have ability to grant their master up to 3 wishes, where after that they will be then set free. They also have a bunch of spells that they can cast once a day. These spells are invisibility, gaseous form, detect magic, enlarge, polymorph only on themselves, and they can create illusions that have both visual and vocal components, but they don't need concentration, and they can create also a wall of fire. They also have an ability to cast produce flame and pyrotechnics at will with no components. Interestingly enough, that non-magical flame does not affect the Efreet, but magical flames have a -1 to both hit rolls and damage rolls to the creature. In the world of D&D, the Efreet call the city of Brass on the elemental plane of fire their home. If anyone is brave enough to try and capture an Efreet in a city, it would be possible, but there would be hundreds of other Efreets that would have to fight to accomplish this. These fire genies are well known for their dislike of servitude, for their desire for revenge, cruel nature, and ability to mislead anyone. They're very intelligent creatures and have the ability to communicate with any semi-intelligent creature with a limited form of telepathy, which means they can bypass any language barrier. Efreetis then appeared in the 1982 Pharaoh Adventure and the 1983 Oasis of the White Palm Adventure modules, with an Efreet called Pasha of the Efreet and Vizier of the Fire Sultan. In these adventures, these guys are like the right hands of the Sultan, and there are 6 of them, each in control of their own domain and wealth. These guys rarely leave the elemental plane of fire unless the Sultan has instructed them to do so. They are also not bound to servitude by anybody and like to use that freedom by causing chaos through the multiple planes from time to time. In this adventure, they can cast spells of a 15th level spellcaster and can cast Fireball, Flame Strike, Wall of Fire, Invisibility, Assume Gaseous Form, Detect Magic, Enlarge, Polymorph, and Create Illusion. And in this adventure, they are actually immune to all fire damage, magical and non-magical. They then appeared in the 1981 to 83 D&D Expert set, where they are actually called free-willed fire elementals that appear as clouds of smoke and then solidifies into a giant-sized demonic faced man surrounded by flame. They're classed as highly magical creatures and also play as a 15th level fighter. They get to cast some of the same spells as before, like create illusion and turn invisible, but they also get the ability to transform into a pillar of flame that can set anything on fire that is flammable within 5 feet of it. This ability can also cause damage to any and all creatures that start their turn stuck in their flames. There is a chance that a high level magic user could summon themselves in Efreeti, and once this happens, it is then in servitude to the spellcaster for 101 days instead of 1001. And again, they will do anything they can to twist and pervert their master's wishes to cause as much chaos as possible for them while they grant these wishes. The next book is the 1984 Companion Rules book, where in this book there is a lesser Efreet and a greater Efreet. It says that when in their home plane of fire, an Efreet would often be invisible with a form that looks like a shifting mass of flame. And in this book they are also now immune to all damage from non-magical weapons, all first level spells, and all attacks based on earth. And they can cast detect invisibility at will. They weren't messing around with Efreets in this book. Efreets in this book are known to be irritable and often evil, and tend to have a peace with fire elementals, but did go to war with them in the past and seem to have a fear of all water-based creatures and attack. Now for the greater Efreet, they are known as the rulers of the lesser Efreets and are known as Amirs. They appear a lot larger than normal Efreets, at around 15 to 30 feet tall. Unlike the lesser Efreets, cannot be hurt by non-magical weapons, but also can't be hurt by any weapons that are lower than a +2 enchantment. They can also regenerate any lost health from battle at a rate of 2 points per round. The greater has all the abilities of the lesser has and can cast them as often as they require, but they can also enter and leave the ethereal plane as much as they want, but will need to spend a full round to concentrate on it to do so. They have certain spells that they can cast once per day. These spells are Grant Another's Wish, Cast Fireball, Earth to Flame, or Explosive Cloud, as if a 20 level magic user. Their Pillar of Flame ability has the ability to ignite all flammable objects within 15 feet and adds a bonus of 2 to 16 points to each fist attack, and it can retain this shape without limits. And unlike the lessers, Amirs cannot be summoned by spells or are affected by very few magic items. They normally appear on the prime plane only in response to cries of the mistreated Efreeti. They also appear in the 1984 Dungeons & Dragons Rules Cyclopedia, but no additional information is given in that book. It's basically the same stuff. In 2nd edition, they appear in the 1989 Monstrous Compendium Volume 1 under Genies. In this book, they are back to their 1001 days of servitude when summoned, and say that they are said to be made of basalt, bronze, and solid flame. They can carry up to 750 pounds, with having no disadvantages to their flying or walking. If an Efreet does not call the city of Brass their home, then they will more often likely be in an Efreeti outpost. These military outposts are used to watch or harass other movements in the plane. These outposts are run by a Malik or a Valley. Outpost forces are primarily directed against incursions from the plane of elemental air, but can be directed against any travelers deemed unsuitable for threats, robbery, or abuse. Efreets in this book are classed as neutral creatures, but tend to head towards organizations and evil or selfish acts in their behavior. Now, when it comes to their home, the city of Brass, it is a huge citadel that is home to the majority of the Efreet race. It hovers in hot regions of the plane and is often bordered by seas of para-elemental magma and lakes of glowing lava. The city itself sits upon a hemisphere of golden, glowing brass some 40 miles across. From the upper towers rise the minarets of the great citadel of the Sultan's palace. Vast riches are said to be in the palace of the Sultan. The city has an Efreet population that far outnumbers the great cities in the Prime Plane, and the Sultan wields the might of a greater power, while many of his advisors are akin to lesser powers or demi-powers. After this book, they reappear in the 1993 Monster Manual, and then the Noble Efreet and the Sultan of the Efreet appear in the 1992 Al-Qadim setting in the Monstrous Compendium Al-Qadim Appendix. Now moving on to 3rd edition, Efreets then show up in the 2003 edition D&D Monster Manual and the 3.5 Monster Manual in 2003. Nothing much in the way of lore from 2nd edition to 3rd edition has really changed, but they get a couple extra spells at their disposal. Twice a day they get to magically change a creature's size similar to that of an enlarge or reduce spell, except the spell can work on an Efreet as well as another creature. They also get an ability where they can cause 1d6 fire damage whenever they are hit with a melee attack or damage to a creature that they are grappling. The spell list that they get in 3rd edition includes Detect Magic, Produce Flame, Pyrotechnics, Scorching Ray, but they only get to shoot 1 ray at will. 3 times a day they can cast Invisibility, Wall of Fire, and once a day they get to grant 3 wishes for anyone other than a genie. Gaseous Form, Permanent Image, and Polymorph. Now we move to the 2008 4th edition Monster Manual. We get 5 different variants of the Efreet. We get the Efreet Fireblade, the Cinder Lord, Flame Strider, Pyrosinger, and the Karadjin. I'm probably butchering that name. The Fireblade is more of the foot soldier of the creatures, and they have a wicked scimitar that deals 2d10 and 2d6 on a crit. And anyone hit with their blade becomes marked. And they also get an action to throw the scimitar at you, as well as a whirling fire steel strike that deals some nasty fire damage and pushes the target back 1 square, and then they take additional fire damage on top of that. Next, the Cinder Lord is more of a distance spell slinger, but do also have a scimitar in case someone gets too close to them. They can cast Firebolt, Curse of the Efreet that constantly deals fire damage and ignores fire resistance. Their Fan the Flames attack is a follow-up attack against a target taking fire damage. They take 3d6 fire damage and can make a secondary attack against all creatures adjacent to the original target. The Flame Strider is a hit and run kind of unit. They have an ability called Fiery Teleport where they can teleport up to 20 squares, and an attack called Fiery Grasp where a fiery hand appears and grabs the target, and this combo can be very deadly. Pyrosinger is the controller and the unit to help others by restraining their targets. They have an attack called Fiery Chains that hits the target with chains engulfed in flame and deals 20 fire damage and also restrains the target. You also get a Sheet of Flame attack where they fill a 20 square area with roaring flame, and anyone starting in the flame takes 10 fire damage. The final creature is the Karadjin. They have a scimitar called the Scimitar of Horrendous Flame, and on a hit, the weapon deals 15 fire damage and immobilizes the target. They also get the ability to control any allied elemental within 10 squares of it. Finally, we have the 5th edition where the Efreet appears in the Monster Manual. In 5th edition, they can very easily hold a grudge against anyone who tries to hold them to servitude. But they don't see themselves this way. Instead, they see themselves as a fair race and feel everything they do is deserved. They see all of the creatures beside themselves as potential servants and often raid the material plane for slaves to take to the plane of fire and sell them into servitude. In the plane of fire, they reside in a domed fortress of black glass and basalt, surrounded by a burning lake of fire, as well as in the capital of the City of Brass. Okay, so we've gone over all the Efreet through the years, and now let's go over the stats that they have in 5e so you can use them in your D&D games. They're classed as large elementals and have an AC of 17 and even 200 hit points. I feel that's very pleasing to the eye. And they have a speed of 40 and a fly speed of 60. They have some pretty decent saving throws for intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, and obviously are immune to fire, and have a challenge rating of 11, which is the same lane as Gyrosphinxes, Horn Devils, and a Rock. They have an ability called Elemental Demise, wherein if the Efreet dies, the body disintegrates into a flash of fire and a puff of smoke, leaving behind only equipment that the Efreeti was wearing or carrying. They have a spell save DC of 15 and have a +7 to spell attacks and can cast Detect Magic at will. 3 times a day they can cast Enlarge and Reduce. They can cast Tongues, and once a day they can cast Conjure Elemental, Gaseous Form, Invisibility, Major Image, Plane Shift, and Wall of Fire. Now for their actions, they can do 2 attacks with their scimitar or use their Hurl Flame attack twice. The scimitar has a +10 to hit with a reach of 5 feet and deals 2d6 +6 slashing damage and +2d6 fire damage. Their Hurl Flame attack has a +7 to hit with a range of 120 feet, and this deals 5d6 fire damage. These guys are a chunk of hit points and can deal a bunch of damage at the same time. To use these guys in your game, you could go down the classic route by finding a strange lamp that has an Efreet trapped inside it and accidentally release it, and because you are their master, they hold a grudge against you, and once they are free, they hunt you down for revenge. Or you could go the route where you and the party need to venture into the City of Brass. Maybe a friend has been taken by an Efreet to be sold into slavery, and you need to get them and rescue them. Who doesn't love a rescue mission? But that is all I have for you guys in the Efreet. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you all found this video helpful, and if there's anything that I've missed, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. What monsters should I cover next? Let me know in the comments, and I will add your comment at the end of that video. You can find links to all my socials down below to keep up to date. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.